Well, while we're here,
Yes.
it's a good time to dish.
Right. What do you want to know?
Well, you had a pretty interesting.
I knew it was going to come down to my stories.
Well, yeah, we'll save mine for later.
Okay.
But I mean, you've played in the park with some of the big dogs.
Right, I have. I think that I kind of took chances to meet people, and it happened. And it was good for, making doors open.
Yeah. He's met Martha Stewart and
Right.
other people. Martha really blows my mind, though. Tell me about how you went to Martha's house.
Well,
You went to Martha's house.
I don't know if I don't want people to think that I'm deceptive. I was certainly much younger than I am now, but I was friendly with some people in the Hamptons that were quite well known as authors and were friendly with Martha. And I was going to visit them for a long week, which was kind of, I was like in my 20s and I was going to the Hamptons with all these design people, so it was a lot of fun. But I sent a fax to Martha Stewart's office, and just so that I was going to be visiting these people, and that they knew, she knew them, and so there was a connectivity,
A point of connection.
yeah, and that I'd love to meet her, and so someone from her office called and said, okay, when can we set this up? So that's how it happened.
And so from that, you went to her house.
Went to her house.
Did she come to the party, or did she say?
No, she called me and said she was going to be in East Hampton on the weekend at her East Hampton house. And
How many houses?
I think she had 3 houses at the time.
Like
Connecticut and Maine and East Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, just give me a call in the morning and we can set up a time to meet. So
then what were you thinking? Like, were you going, OMG?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I told her I had my portfolio and I wanted to show her my work and, was hoping that maybe there was some opportunity, So a friend of mine from college went with me and we drove over. We called her early in the morning and, she always talks about how she's up at all hours. But I did really feel like I had maybe woken her up. And she said, come on over at 10 o'clock maybe. And we drove over and she wasn't...
Did she stumble down the hall in her PJs?
No, she wasn't home. She had gone out to the flea market. And her housekeeper, Mariana, who later testified against her in court, was there. And she let us in and she goes, you guys want to look around? And I was like, maybe better wait till Martha gets back. I wasn't going to look around Martha's house on my own. And so we sat at the kitchen table and had seltzer water until Martha returned.
Did she come in carrying brown bags or?
She didn't. I don't recall her having any bags, but there were vintage wicker pieces in the back of the pickup truck that she'd been driving. And I do kind of remember her telling Mariana that the back hallway the floor needed to be washed.
Ooh,
yeah.
So then she came in, and then did she make you feel welcome, or
She absolutely made me feel welcome. She was very, very kind. She had beautiful skin, which, I guess you would guess that from the pictures, but, when you see people in person, it's like a whole different thing.
It's funny that you would notice that, so it must have been extra beautiful.
Well, it was like
mine.
Porcelain. Yeah, absolutely, just like yours. And she took us on a tour of the house.
Wow, but was she trying to figure out who you were? You're this random person, or is that just...
Well, I was friendly with someone who owned a large antique shop in town who she knew quite well, and so I think there had been some behind the scenes kind of vetting who was this person.
Yeah,
and so,
friend of a friend.
Right, so by the time I got there, I think it was, the defenses were down and it was okay.
So did she talk like she does? Long and slow?
No, kind of more normal. No, it was, but what was great is that, she took us around the house and there were things there that I had never seen before, like a sisal, it looked like a sisal carpet, but it was made of silk.
Yeah.
There were all the furnishings in the living room were done in this beige linen, and she said she only found one mill in the world in Belgium that made it. And all of her furniture was upholstered in that.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite special. You know, it was a nice visit. And she looked through my portfolio, and she said that she would give it to one of her art directors, and they would get back to me.
And poof.
It kind of actually was like poof, because the woman that called me back said to me, you know, you don't live in New York, so I'm not sure, you know, there's anything here for you. But, you know, life was different then. There wasn't the ability to kind of do everything virtually, so, you know.
Right. Those were the days of pagers and fax machines.
That's right. But the great thing about it is that it made me want to do what I do even more. It gave me a real push. And
well, let me ask you this. Was her house like all neat as a pin and perfectly decorated?
Absolutely. And
much like mine?
Very much. Yes. And I know you have a Mariana too, because she let me in when I got here. But she had the yard at her East Hampton house was absolutely filled with the most beautiful, amazing, and abundant roses I've ever seen. Yeah.
Well, I would love to meet Martha.
Well, maybe that'll happen. I don't know if she watches this; it might shut it down. But like I said, she was perfectly lovely to me. Nothing ever came of it, but to me it was a personal feather in my cap to have an invite there and to visit.
I know, and so it should be.
Yeah.
So one last question. Was this before her Martha Stewart Living magazine?
No, she had the magazine, but it was very early on. It was probably in the early 1990s, like 92
Well,
maybe.
you know what? I wrote Martha a letter. I was her, when she came out with their magazine, I was like, what do they call it when you're the first subscriber? There's a special name.
Charter.
Yeah, charter subscriber. So I'm getting her magazine, I'm really liking it, but then there was a shift and it started becoming like lots of recipes and more crafts, not a lot of interiors.
Right.
And I just wasn't liking it, so I wrote her a letter, and I said, you know, I was a charter member, subscriber, and I'm very disappointed with the direction of your magazine. I think you should be doing more about decorating and interiors, and so for that reason, I'm canceling my subscription.
Uh-huh. Did you hear back?
No.
Did the direction change at all? Not really.
No, I don't think she doesn't.
Still very food oriented.
Yeah. And crafty.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure she got to read your letter, but probably if she did, she would have been impressed by the fact.
But you know what? I did call her on her radio show, and I talked to her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And did you know you can call? She does a radio show, and you can get through pretty easily. And I just wanted to ask her a question, so the people behind the scenes ask you, oh, what question do you have for Martha today? And I said, oh, I want to ask her what she considers to be the new and upcoming trends for interiors.
Right.
And so then they're like, okay, Amy from Boston, you're next. And I'm like, hi, Martha. You know, I have an interior design business, and it's just a pleasure to speak to you.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you think is a very important trend in interior design? And she does speak with such authority.
Yes.
But not an English accent, but I can't do it.
Right.
And she said it's animal prints.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she said animal prints
odd to me.
Well, that was Martha. And I said, yeah, a little bit of leopard goes with everything. Yes.
Really?
And so that was my closest brush. Oh, and she followed me on Twitter. So that's as close as
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, you know, I think if you look at the very early Martha Stewarts, her style really showed through, and then I think people came in that had more creative direction that she kind of gave them the lead on.
Right.
So it changed quite a bit. But I really think if they wanted to recapture their audience, they should do more about her house and her rooms. And
what they should call it is Truly Martha.
Right.
So Martha, if you're watching us, get your new show called Truly Martha.
Truly Martha.
And really dish about what you love, Martha.
Well, and show us the closets, because that's what we want to see.
You're never seeing my closets.
Next episode, Amy's Closets, behind the scenes.